Breakfast with Sonia Watson and Ben Fryer. This is BBC Essex.
Right, it's pretty amazing how far technology has come in recent years, isn't it? We've got smart meters for our energy, voice-controlled assistants, keyless cars. Feel free to let us know the gadget that you can't live without after this next discussion.
Even the most tech-savvy person might raise an eyebrow at this latest craze. And this is getting microchips planted under your skin. It's called biohacking. And if you've got it done already, what an incredible call that would be. It's rising in popularity as well. So let's speak to a biohacker, Raven Brookes. Raven, you have got a chip in your hand, haven't you?
Yes, I do indeed.
So why did you get this done?
Well, many reasons, really. I'm a very techie person. I like anything to do with automation. And also I work in the field of creative communications and media and that sort of thing. And it just seemed to be an interesting and exciting thing to do, really, and also for future-proofing purposes. So with my chip, I will possibly be able to make contactless payments in the future. Very useful on a night out, as you could probably imagine. And there are lots and lots of other things that you can potentially do with it. It's just legislation has to catch up to the technology.
Raven, are you not worried about your public freedoms, shall I term it as? People, if you've got a chip, people presumably will be able to know exactly where you are all the time.
No, that's not true. So it's an NFC chip, which stands for Near Field Communication. And basically, all it is a unique ID that can be read by a device of some description. So literally, in order to know it's there, you have to be within a few centimetres of it. That is the only way you can read it. So it doesn't transmit anything.
We're all a bit sceptical of some of these devices, though, aren't we, Raven? Are you sure?
I'm very sure. Well, I mean, if I was scared of surveillance, I wouldn't have a smartphone.
Well, a lot of people say that, don't they? So what's the point of what you've got in your hand? What can you do?
What can I do? Well, at the moment, I have it set up as basically a unique ID for my wireless router at home. So if I've got a visitor, which I sometimes do, and they want to get on to the Wi-Fi at my house, all they have to do is bump their phone against my hand, and hey presto, they're immediately connected up to my Wi-Fi.
Does that feel a bit weird?
No, not at all. It's not the weirdest thing about me, believe it or not. So,
is it going to set off any detectors when you're going through, like the shoplifting detectors or airport? It doesn't set off anything like that?
I don't believe it will, no. I mean, it hasn't set off any shop detectors yet. I haven't actually flown since I had it put in. I had it put in, I think it was December. And I haven't flown since then, although I will soon, so we shall find out. But it's a very, very minimal amount of metal that's actually in there. It's almost trace amounts. So it's not the kind of thing that we picked up even by an MRI scanner. So it's very, very small. It's about the size of a grain of rice, I suppose you could say. And yeah, it's just, I barely notice it's there now.
I was going to say, did it hurt to have it put in?
Yes, it did hurt quite a lot, unfortunately. But I've got tattoos, I've got piercings. I'm not afraid of a little bit of pain, so it was fine actually. And Jenova, who put it in for me, she was excellent, very professional, and dealt with it gorgeously. So
well, we've got Jenova on the line as well, Raven. So,
have you now?
Yeah. Hi, Jenova.
Hello, morning all.
Hiya. So your job is to fit these devices, is it?
That's right, yeah. I've done a lot. I've done hundreds, in fact.
Hundreds?
Yes, yeah. I would estimate worldwide, because there's a worldwide community for this now. Not as recent as people think as well. I'd take a guess there's about 20,000 people worldwide that have had chips now.
How much does it cost to get it done?
So the NFC chip that Raven has, which is probably the most popular one, is £130 at my clinic in Leicester.
And there's more expensive ones as well, is there?
Yeah. We've currently got 8 different chips available that are all sort of running on different platforms. So some you can clone from different transport cards, some you can use better with door locks, some are easier to program with your phone, and yeah, it's it's a fairly experimental time with them. So there's sort of different chips being developed all the time. As any with sort of latest technology, there's always new upgrades and things. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
You say exciting times, but where do you think this is going to go? What potentially, it must be quite difficult, but sort of 20, 30 years' time, what sort of technology will exist that this microchip could do?
I think even sort of 20, 30 years is probably too far of an estimate. I think probably way sooner than that. I think Raven's right in saying that eventually contactless payments will be available through this method. In the same way you can now do that with your phone, that's also NFC with your phone payments. It's the same chip that we're implanting in your hand. So we're just waiting for a payment platform to be invented for that. So I think maybe 3 or 4 years you'll be doing your payments this way. I think maybe as soon as 10 years, something like this could be sort of an everything chip that kind of replaces all of your keys and pretty much everything in your wallet. So it'll be your ID, your bus pass, your train ticket, your payment. It'll be the keys to your front door, your work access, your car, everything. Yeah.
How do you learn to do this? Is there lots of rules and regulations around it?
Not really.
Should there be?
Sorry?
Should there be more regulations around it?
Possibly. I think inevitably there will be, same as anything else, once it becomes established and recognised. At the minute, it falls under similar legislation to beauticians and invasive makeup procedures like, the microblading for your brows, and anything that's to do with sharps and blades falls under the same council legislation currently. And it's a very similar procedure to having a piercing, for example. It's just a little syringe delivery thing, so it takes about 3 seconds to put in. You just sort of poke it in and press the plunger down. It's very quick, very, very simple. It's not as invasive as you might think it is.
And do people just rock up and get it done? Do you chat with them about what they're about to let themselves in for, or can they just turn up 5 minutes later, leave, and have it planted?
I'm booked up about 6 weeks in advance, so they do need to book. So I normally have a good amount of time to chat with people, make sure I know what it is they're looking to do with their chip, to make sure they've made a good choice about what they're going for. To also see what they're using it with as well. It's much easier to use these if you've got an Android device rather than an iPhone, so that plays a part in that as well.
Well, you learn something every day. Thank you, Raven and Jenova. I always say no two shows are the same. You never quite know what you're going to talk about on the show. I had no idea.
I didn't even know about biohacking was a thing, but if you are a biohacker like Raven is, or maybe you like the idea of it, get in touch. 0800 111 40 41. On the plus side, you're never going to lose your keys again, are you?
Could I operate this radio
Ben, actually, do you know
studio?
what, Ben? This would be an ideal thing for you because you were always faffing around looking for things that you've placed somewhere and lost.
You
would never lose anything.
I would never lose my keys. Yeah. I'm just going to, if I had a chip, could I make the travel happen?
Travel news from BBC Essex.
I did that with my hand, the chip in my hand.
It's a lie.
Russell Holding has the latest. Hi, Russell.
BBC Essex Sport.
Morning, Wednesday morning. It's BBC Essex Breakfast. You are with Ben and Sonia. We're here until 9 o'clock. That was quite a fascinating chat about biohacking.
We're both looking at each other going, that's astonishing.
So she was basically saying there's 8 different chips you can have. You can have it put into your hand. In about 3 or 4 years, you can make contactless payments with your hand from the chip. And maybe in 10 years, you can unlock your door and instead of having a bunch of keys that you always lose or always at the bottom of your handbag, you can just use your hand because you've got a chip in your hand. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Start your car, chip in your hand. Pay for stuff, chip in your hand.
I've seen horror movies, world domination due to chips in your hand. I've seen the scary movies when they do these things and they take over.
Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
No, but that is that sort of thing, isn't it? I've seen it trailered, but I've not seen it yet.
You should watch because it reminds me a little bit of an episode of. There was an episode of Black Mirror. It's a Channel 4 series, and it plays with your mind a little bit. And makes you really think. And there's something there. You could have a chip installed in your brain that remembered everything and recorded everything that happened in your life, and then you could go back and just recount everything that had happened to you for anyone who needed it. And there was a crime committed, and
So what's the one Tom Cruise was in that's sort of similar to that?
Minority
That was
Report,
it. It's a bit like that, isn't it? Minority Report. The other thing it puts me in mind of, which is much more low level, is SpongeBob SquarePants. When the baddie in SpongeBob SquarePants sells people buckets, and they all put these buckets on their head as like a novelty thing, but what they don't realise is then he uses it to take over the world.
Jedi mind trick, Star Wars is
it's
what
all
I'm
of that,
thinking
isn't
of
it?
as well.
Yeah.
And I feel free, if you want to take the conversation, have a chat about people having a microchip in your hand to do things, how you would feel about that. And our guest was insistent, because my worry was, well, you'll just be a little dot on a map somewhere forever. People will be able to see what you're up to, what you're doing all the time. Raven said no, it's only accessible within a certain range of a certain device that recognises it. Chris is in Colchester. What did you think of that conversation, Chris?
It's about as creepy as it gets, I think.
You're not booking yourself in any time soon?
No, I don't think so. But I've heard about stuff like this by sort of cookie conspiracy theorists for in the past, and I kind of laughed it off and thought they were just mental. But this is mental. And heard them talking about putting where you can have money on there, and it will just be a cashless society where you can just sort of have your chip and your bank details all in a chip in your hand or whatever. And now it's actually coming true. It's quite frightening, actually.
Not that many years away. Genova was saying, we could be looking at contactless payments via these chips in our hands in about 3 or 4 years. That's no time, really, is it?
No, that's insane. And also, I mean, he says they can't be tracked or anything, but really, I mean, I'm sure something could be put in there by the company or whatever, or it could be hacked into. I mean, it's open for trouble, I think, and anyone who gets it would be mad.
It's interesting as well, there doesn't appear, and we spoke to Jenova about it, there doesn't appear to be a great deal of regulation around it either. So they've invented the technology and the regulation perhaps will follow. You do wonder if that was the right way. Maybe they needed to do it in tandem, really, but there we go.
Yeah.
But Chris,
very strange.
Just to make the point, though, that Jenova said, it's no more invasive than having a smartphone, is it?
Well, not a lot, but it's just going to another level. But I'm very wary with that. I mean, I've heard people say they sort of turn their phone off quite a lot, or make sure the cover's over in certain situations, because the people say they are being watched or listened to all the time for steal your information. It's weird because I've had people say that they were talking about a conversation and then they've seen it as a suggestion on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah,
it's come
people
up.
said that to me.
It is weird,
popped
isn't it?
up on social media.
Yeah.
You've literally had a conversation about something, and then conveniently up pops an advert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Orwellian.
Yeah, that was just what I was going to say, Chris. Thank you for your call, Chris in Colchester there. It is a little bit George Orwell, isn't it? Or Black Mirror, or Minority Report, or SpongeBob SquarePants,
or Star Wars.
or Star Wars, whichever comparison you want to make. Thank you for your call.
Breakfast with Sonia Watson and Ben Fryer on BBC Essex.
And on a completely different note, we heard about something that's becoming increasingly popular. It is called biohacking. We have spoken to a biohacker and somebody who's done the biohacking. We think, basically, if you've just joined us, you didn't hear earlier and you don't know what the heck we're talking about, it's where you get a chip put into your hand that can ultimately do things. At this stage, we spoke to Raven, who's got a chip in her hand, and it allows people who come around her house and want to connect to her Wi-Fi to just tap their phone against her hand and hey presto, they've connected to the Wi-Fi. You can get about 8 different chips. They start at about 130 quid. And eventually, in maybe 3 or 4 years' time, we might be able to have chips in our hands that we can go to the shops and use to pay for things.
In 10 years' time, we could start cars, lock doors, do all sorts of things. You'll never lose your car keys again because you won't need them. You can just use a chip in your hand to do it all for you. How do you feel about that? Tongue-in-cheek text coming in. Carolyn Tolsbury. Morning, I think microchips should stay in the freezer. Do you remember that? Oh, they still do them.
Yes, of course they do. We were talking about chips the other day. Yeah, I'm not sure. I suppose they are
in the box. Stick them
Yeah,
in the microwave
micro.
from an hour.
Yeah, and you get the pizzas as well that you can microwave, can't you?
yeah.
Anyway, we're
Yeah, we
getting
do. Anyway,
sidetracked
yeah.
on food. Darren is in Sybil Headingham and wants to talk about microchipping. Are you a biohacker, Darren?
I'm not, I'm afraid. I'm not that brave. No, I think it's a fascinating thing, and I always try to be objective when I phone into you. And, this kind of thing is impressive, and it is incredible, and it's the stuff of science fiction from not that long ago. But I have to try and put it in a context I can relate to. And I've come on your show before and talked about being a barrister and looking at the law and this, that, and the other. And I have to wonder whether or not these things, which I will, in the nicest possible way, coin as novelty technology, whether they are solving alleged problems, but in the wake of that causing more real issues. To use an analogy, when contactless came in, it's a wonderful thing. We can save the 20 or 30 seconds it takes to put your card in a machine and tap in a number. But the criminal fraternity developed to then walking around with mobile card readers and swiping 30 quids off people in crowded tube spaces. So, I wonder with these things, are they not creating more avenues of abuse than the problems they are allegedly solving? And it may be that they are a precursor to better things. The young lady on your show the other day, you had a dog who could detect when she was going to pass out with a condition she had. If we had a chip that could tell us that or pre-warn of things like that, obviously that's fantastic. And maybe we need things like Raven's type of chip as a precursor to that. But I think we just have to be mindful of, are we not just solving alleged novelty issues that aren't really issues at all? I can open my door, I can log on my Wi-Fi, but I'm actually opening myself to layers of abuse with people that are not quite right thinking and want to do things bad in the wake of technology.
That's it, isn't it? It's trying to get the balance right, isn't it? Because progress and technology is fascinating and can help us in so many ways. But as you say, there is a darker side to it, which can lead to a criminal element, not so nice things.
Well, that's right. And as a society, I mean, that's the same in anything. As technology advances, cars get faster, we have more problems with speed, for example, things like that. But, we get to a point, and relating back to the law, which is really the only thing I know with any detail, is that we get to a stage where we can deal with the traditional crimes and we make it much harder for criminals to conduct crime with advances in DNA testing and things like that. But then we expand the sphere of influence for them to say, fine, I won't do that anymore, but I will hack somebody with a chip and steal their identity. That might be where it goes. So I think all these things are fascinating, and I really wouldn't wish to say that I'm against it. I think it's incredible, but I think we just need to be mindful of novelty things versus the issues that they are apparently solving, which aren't really issues at all. It's just a novelty. And are you not then opening the door to a wider range of problems that you don't really need with everything that goes on in life anyway?
Darren, thank you very much. Your considered thoughts are welcome on other stories we cover in the future. That was interesting thoughts there from Darren, saying, is this just technology for technology's sake? What is it actually really saving in terms of purpose? We can always open our door with a key.
You can always come round my house, Ben. I'll give you the Wi-Fi password and you can just type it in.
I mean, it's
no biggie. I don't want you to be tapping your phone on my hand to do it.
It'll take 20 seconds. I don't mind taking 20 seconds. It is incredible when you think the technology, and even just typing in the PIN, it literally saves 20 seconds. Is all of that necessary? And also, Darren's second point was, does it not just add to the problem? Does it not create a whole new way of a way of operating for criminals, for example?
Well, you might be, in the future trying to get the chip out of someone to get access to their banks.
Well, who knows? And Chris,
heaven forbid something like that would happen. But as Darren said, it could open the door to the nastier stuff.
And Chris rang in earlier and said, well, I'm not quite sure this not being able to detect if you've got a microchip, not having a little location, people knowing where you are, that doesn't quite wash with me. It's interesting. You never know what you're going to talk about on this show. Do you want to read Mike's?
I was going to say, can we just take a moment to enjoy Mike's text? Who says, is it time for men to have a chip in their knee so that as they approach the loo, the seat lifts up? If they then turn around to go, the seat would just lower. Now, that would be what I would call a useful piece of technology, Mike, wouldn't it? Because it actually is quite helpful. So I would go with that. And I think the blokes would like it. The girls would also like it. And it's a good invention.
Someone else is texting. I can think of something else to do with £130 because that's how much these chips cost.
They start
at
yeah.
that price. They start at that price. Roger in Southend. Hi, Roger.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, you didn't wake up this morning and think, I'm going to call a radio station today and chat about people having microchips in their hands. But here we are.
Well, just on the way to work, I work all over Chelmsford, but just on the way I was listening to it, I think it's an absolute great idea. I think it's fantastic. I think it's definitely, it's about being progressive, and it's a next step, I think. Considering we've got a lot of card fraud and banking fraud, I think it's fantastic. And as the lady pointed out earlier, they don't transmit nothing. So, like our phones...
How do you know that? How do you know that, Roger?
Well, we don't, Sonia, we don't. But, we have to take it on face value at the moment. But I mean, your phone, I guarantee you, both of you guys, you probably don't know, your phone's location right now is turned on. So what that's doing is consistently transmitting your location 24/7, but we don't seem to have an issue with that. So I don't know why suddenly just because it's put into our skin and we find it a bit icky, but actually it's probably far more less invasive than the devices that you've got right in front of you right now. So
Roger, I've got an app. Sonia doesn't like this app at all, but I've got an
me
app
out, Roger.
that I share, so me and my wife can see where we both are at all times, and it works handily because when she's coming home, I can put the dinner on. I can put the dinner on, and the exact time she comes, I'll put the kettle on. The tea's ready for her because I know when she's coming home.
Well, there you are. There you go. And we can't complain about a chip. That potentially would save us time, be more security-wise, be much safer security-wise. I think it's fantastic. I'll definitely want to get one done. I think I'll go on the list, I think.
What would you like it to do for you, Roger?
Well, that was the previous caller. The Wi-Fi thing is fantastic because how many friends are over and they want your Wi-Fi code? You've got to scramble for the bit of card. That's brilliant. But that's, I think, more
for the
stuff,
sake of
like
20 seconds.
It's that convenience. That's what it's about. But paying for things, contactless paying is amazing. Yes, that's brilliant. And in fact, last night, it's so weird. You had this story today because last night I said to my friend, "Oh God, I wish there was a sort of chip in my hand. I could just pay for something." And today, suddenly, there's a story about it. It's brilliant. So yeah, I definitely would sign myself up for it.
Well, if you get it done, Roger, you know what to do. Make sure you get back in touch with us, please. We'll come and see you. We'll log on to your Wi-Fi.
I'll do a whole videography for you and send it in to you.
Okay, deal. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, only if you ever get it done, Roger. We're very interested in, and we'll come and use your Wi-Fi with our phones as a result of your... So, Roger, it's good. We've had both sides of the argument there, and both considered arguments from both gentlemen who came on about having a chip in your hand that will just do stuff at ease. You may never lose your car keys again, for example.
I think on a practical level for you, Ben, it would be quite advantageous because the amount of time we waste when you think, I don't know what I've done with my bag. Did I have my phone? Where's my keys? Just could be all in your hand, in the palm of your hand.
It could be. It could. I quite like the idea of a chip controlling the radio bits and bobs I've got in front of me as well. Just wave my hand over to make stuff happen. 8:30. So the show's over to you now, really. You can talk about whatever you want for the final 26 minutes of the programme. You lead us in the conversation up to that point. Do you want to talk about chips in your hand, microchips in your hand? The technology is such now that you can have it... Sounds just a bit like getting your ear pierced. Bang, microchip in your hand. Doesn't take very long. Does hurt a bit, but doesn't take very long. And for that, in about 10 years' time, it's predicted that you can open your car doors, you can start your car, you can open your door, you can pay for stuff contactlessly. Just put your hand out, connect to Wi-Fi's, all this sort of thing.
You won't need to buy a handbag then, will you, necessarily? Because you won't have anything to put in it. The handbag industry will be reeling from this development. 0800 111 40 41 if you want to talk about that. Mike's in Leon C. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Ben and Sonia. Or Sonia and Ben, I should put it right round.
Oh, bless you. Are you going to get chipped then, Mike?
Well, yes, it's very interesting, all this. There's several people have made comments, and I've thought of various things. One is the fact that I only have a basic mobile phone, which is never switched on. I only have it for my emergencies, if I want to call out the police or the RAC, etc. And I don't do contactless. I only use cash, or if I use my card, it's with a PIN number. That's one aspect. The other thing too is about this chip business. A few years ago, it was reported in the press that somebody, I think out Greece way or somewhere like that, who had had fingerprint access to their car.
Yeah.
And they lost their fingers because the thieves wanted it.
Oh.
Well, see, this is what I was thinking earlier. In years to come, that could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing too with this chip business is, very simply. I know it sounds silly, but if you change your car, what do? Do you get a new chip? Do you have to? And if you have to have your chip reprogrammed, that means somebody somewhere is going to have your details in the ether, wherever.
So not
another
for you
issue
yet,
is
Mike.
on the cashless front. I believe it's Sweden are already encouraging people to keep cash at home because of the possibility of cyber attacks onto the systems, and nobody will be able to do anything.
Wow. Thank you, Mike. It's something like that out of a sci-fi movie, isn't it?
Wow.
I remember when I went to a big supermarket in Colchester, a really big one, and it wasn't Christmas just gone. Maybe it was one before. Or it was a busy time anyway, and all their tills, the card payment things, had gone down because of some big fault, and it was chaos. Because of course, majority of people are going there, especially if you're doing a big shop. You're going to pay on your debit card, and they were unable to process card payments, which it doesn't take much, does it, to grind us to a halt?
Well, just imagine if computers just suddenly stopped working.
All of them. That's just this life over as we know it, isn't it? Chris in Braintree is a big fan of biohacking. Sorry, Chris. Got a frog in my throat there. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Not a fan.
Well, I see the advantages of it. It's going forward in technology. I'm not a technophobe. I get excited about new stuff that comes out. I think it's a good idea, but it's a bit of a waste of money in develop these chips to open car doors and pay for things and all that. We've got contact. It's not exactly hard to pull a handle on a car door, really, is it? Why can't they spend the same amount of money developing it for medical treatments? We've got patches that go on their arms for diabetics to measure blood sugar levels, but why can't a chip do that? If you've got a chip inside, why can't that be developed to measure blood sugar levels? Why can't it develop to remotely measure kidney functions, or for patients with kidney problems or bladder problems or blood issues?
Something more useful. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, something a lot more useful than being able to walk in a shop and pay for your Mars bar with your thumb.
That's got to be the quote of the day, Chris. That's got to be the quote of the day. But Chris, you do have a point, and we kind of alluded to it with Raven, didn't we? It's like, do you really need to just tap your phone on someone's hand to connect to their Wi-Fi? It's not actually a massive deal to just tap in a little password, is it, really?
In the whole scheme of
all the
life.
things you could do, I think I prefer Mike's lifting up and closing of the toilet seat idea with a chip, because that actually would benefit more people.
But I like Chris's suggestion. For a medical purpose, surely there is a way we can use this technology for a better purpose. Thank you, Chris. That was nice to hear from you. And also, the reference to the medical detection dog. Is there a chip that can monitor your health? Can it tell you when you're about to have a heart attack?
But then you can get that on your phones now, can't you? Because I think we covered it a few months ago. They're developing the new iPhone and some of the new phones that are being developed now can detect if you've got problems with your heart and all sorts of other things as well to help on a medical front. Keep getting in touch with us about that if you want to talk about microchipping. 0800 111 40 41. With regards to this biohacking, putting a chip in your hand, Mark on the text says, chipping the loo seat is a great idea, but to raise or close the seat would probably require electricity. The culprit may misaim and get an electric shock. Ouch. Yeah, we didn't think that through. It sounded quite a good idea, didn't it, Mark? But maybe it needs a bit more work.
Sheila in Southend says, as technology is updated all the time, would you have to keep having the chip removed and an updated version put in? You'd look like a patchwork quilt within a couple of years. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Lucy. Final word for Nick on the Facebook page, Ben Space Son, who says all these people getting excited about microchips are idiots. Sadie 9 will take you through to midday.
Thanks very much indeed. Oh, the frog in the throat there. Thank you to the breakfast team. Great show as ever.